to another week of Fantasy Overwatch Underground. I come back to you after a long weekend of Overwatch. 20 matches in total, and you know what? I slacked off a little bit. I watched 19 of them. I'm not going to tell you which one I didn't watch. Figure it out for yourself. It's a puzzle. Not talking about these players or this match specifically, but hey, there's too many to even try summarizing all of it. So, thankfully, we've got some pretty key waiver wire moves to make here. And in another week of 10 transactions, I'm going to get down to it here in just a minute. Before I do, I'm going to say everything will be all right. Now, that message is for me. Maybe that message is for some of you too, where not every week in fantasy is going to go perfectly. And frankly, even if it is, it means the league that you're in is not serious or competitive enough. Sometimes you have the best year of your life fantasy-wise and everything goes well, but in a good competitive league, not everything will go your way. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn some lessons. That was this week for me. So do as the Dallas Fuel do. Take your losses, learn from it, come back better, faster, and stronger, and I can promise you things will go your way in the long run, if not week to week. So we'll get into my mistake number one here, and that goes along with my 10 transactions. So real briefly, let me flash these up on the screen. We've got waiver wire Shy as number one, and really the most important move potentially this year so far in fantasy. Waiver wire 2 is I am 37, and then I cheated. 3, 4, and 5 waiver wire moves are for our Philly Fusion friends who may be coming back from visas by the time we're watching the team again. Number 6, I've got take note of Sparkr. 7 is another take note of Tsuna. 8 is hit the snooze button on Eileen. And number 9 and number 10 are sweat it just a little bit, but not too much, here on Jimmy and far away from the Chengdu Hunters. So without further ado, vast majority of this show is going to be on Shy, who I've done some in-depth analysis on. So let's get to it. Now the first clip of Shy is less so a clip of him versus a clip of how he's being perceived right now. So let me turn on the sound here. I'm going to be quiet here for just a little bit.
That's the way it works.
Oh my
there
God.
You go. Eileen already gone out of the fight as soon as the bomb gets let loose. Architect cheating around the back as this pulse ready. Rio dead up in front. The bubble collapses. The headshot is there. They put him in the ground 6 feet under. Dynamite around the corner. Does connect on the choice they want. He's trying to go in. He's trying to get this pulse bomb stick, but Shy gets him in the head yet again. Are you joking? That's it. That's the closeout. Give Shy all of the awards, all of the accolades. He is the season MVP. He is the rookie of the year. Good Lord. Utter destruction at the hands of this man. There is nothing that he cannot do when he is on Ash.
Spark very much turned things around this week, and that is largely, although not solely in part, due to Shy here. So they started off the weekend with a nail-biting loss to the Dragons, 3-2, and after that they stomped the Charge 3-0. Kind of setting their place in APAC. They're 1-3 after a really bad first week. The Scrimbucks were not kind to them, but you really have to view this team a little bit differently after a really good week. I hard sold on them. I did not believe, and I'm paying for it right now in a league where I dropped Shy last week. So here's my take on Shy as we get into another clip of him here. If I'm summarizing what I saw of Shy this weekend, he has some really good hit scan play, and I mean really good. We did see him on the Tracer, where he was not good. Although, here's a clip of him getting a 5k on Tracer. More so 5 final blows than him actually carrying the team fight. Last week we saw him in a small sample size, very mediocre on Ash in what was just a disastrous team effort, and looking kind of abysmal as well on the Sombra. But I'm bearing the lead here. So I dug into some of his replay reviewer clips, and we're going to get into an in-depth watch here of him on each of the Ash, McCree, and Tracer. It might be a little bit unfair to even open and not just be singing this kid's praises. Here we see a really nasty headshot of him on Fleta, and then he also takes Lee Jae-gon. So you'll see me jumping back and forth here in the replay reviewer. impressed me about Shy is his mechanics and his vision. You'll see here in the shot that he gets on Fleta. Fleta's not the obvious target here. He's got Fate in front of him. You can see him thinking about it. As Fate leaves, he knows exactly where Fleta's going, and he just pops over with a really nice headshot. And then afterwards, you see some nice zoning here by Gushue, just feeding him the Brigitte. Nice cleanup there. So first things first, we've seen a lot of players hit nasty headshots on tracers on this channel. Mike Kaylee, Guangbong. We've seen both of those players with some really, really impressive shots. And to me, while both of those players have sky-high ceiling potential, we haven't seen it yet in Overwatch League, where we've seen it at the lower level. Those guys have the capability, and I do hope and I do think that we'll see it at some point this season where both of those guys will be waiver pickups. I think should the right hero pools favor them, and there's a simpler, more defined meta that requires a nutty hit scan player, I think you're going to see that, see both of those players succeed. What Shy has shown us this week is he doesn't need that to succeed. He's a smart player. He has good vision and good decision making. And on top of that, he's got some sick mechanics. So we'll jump ahead here just a little bit. This particular map is map 5 against Shanghai, and I wanted to highlight it because he's playing against Lip here. Lip is a player whom I have a very high opinion of, and he really goes toe-to-toe here. Although it's a Widow versus Ashe, here he pressures the Widow enough to make Lip leave the scene. Lip then gets killed by MCD, having to use grapple to get out of Shy's point of view. And then Shy does a really nice job countering the ball, using an effective shift, and then cleaning up. In between there, what you may not have seen is he also got a nice pick on Izayaki. So going back to this whole, Kaylee and Guangbong are currently making me rethink the whole mechanical nutty player. And once more, I'm seeing strong decision making out of Shy, good use of abilities, and hitting the shots when he needs to. And when he really shouldn't be. Just quick cleanup, 2 taps Izayaki. I don't think he ever misses Fate on a shot here. And, for good measure, his Bob finishes up Fleta. So, once again, critical point, critical matchup. He's going against one of the absolute best in Lip. And you'll see Lip switch over to the Ashe. He's looking to get a hard difference value on the Widow, which requires that he get some shots on Shy. And Gushue is a big contributor here. But Shy has been keeping an eye on him and keeping him honest, where he has to switch heroes to try and get value. Granted, they're winning the point, but it's largely behind Fleta's Tracer. So you'll see he has a pretty even duel there with Lip, and that's what I'd like to see. He's not going to win every single team fight. He's not going to headshot whoever he's against every single time. But he's going toe-to-toe with Lip, who, by my review, has looked a little bit better than DM so far. If we're looking at hit scan capabilities, I don't know how highly I rank Lip. I don't have a number in mind, but he's definitely that second tier below the absolute tip top. I have a very, very high opinion of him. Nice shot there again on Fleta. And then here, nice shot on Izayaki, although Gushue gets the final blow. And he's, hard carrying is an overused word, and I don't think this is a hard carry, but I think he is getting the absolute most value that you can get out of this hero against a very good team in a pivotal point. We're also going to watch a little bit of Shy on the Tracer, and I don't think a lot of people are going to leave this weekend with the opinion that his Tracer is not good, because as I showed earlier, he had a 5k on the hero. They rolled the charge. He's playing against, Eileen and Choi So-won, who in this particular setup at the moment aren't playing Tracer. You'll see them in a little bit, but they 3-0 a team that has Eileen, who last year was a pivotal Tracer, and Choi So-won this year, who, as you've seen in my previous videos, I love his Tracer. I think he's really, really good. Shy, you'll see here, kind of poking around, not doing anything too interesting. And in my review, I'm seeing probably a little too much of that, not finding value everywhere that, those top Tracers seem to have. And then on top of that, just mixed ability usage. I don't want to say bad pulse bomb there, but he kind of just sort of blindly dives in, hoping to land a pulse bomb on, a triple blink. Not one of those well-calculated, well-planned ones like you often see for the pulse bombs that hit. It was clearly a low-probability pulse bomb. He then goes in a little bit too far trying to make something happen, and he gets flashbanged and headshot. Comfort pick goes back to Ash. He realizes he's not getting value on the Tracer when, the comp doesn't necessarily favor it. It's hard to do against the Mei, McCree, Diva, but he realizes he's not getting the value. He switches to what he's more comfortable with. Choi Sawan, you know how much I love this guy. Really good ability usage to avoid getting wrecked by Shy there. And hanging in there. That's more a testament to Choi Sawan's play, but Shy doing what he needs to do. He's pressuring down the Mei and forcing out strong ability usage. And his team's able to capitalize. They're able to push in. Part of that being due to Mei not having her ice block. Not entirely, but it's a piece of it. Shy isn't a perfect human being. He goes for some shots here and misses. He lands some of them. But he's pressuring the backline, keeping them in check. Even as the Lucio comes around, he almost gets a lot out of it. As he's getting booped, he can't quite hit some shots. But amazing kill here by Choi Sawan on Shy as well. So, I'm going back to this to show imperfect Tracer and amazing Ash play. If that clip didn't entirely do it for you, I've got one more short blip of him here on Tracer where he's got an enemy Tracer to go up against, which is definitely a useful measuring stick. As the fight comes around, his ult charge is a little bit lower than Choi Sawan's. Kind of generally just feeling out the other team, posturing, positioning, and not being particularly dangerous or productive. Both teams on similar comps, although you've got the charge with Zarya and Spark with Diva. It pairs well with Architect's Echo, which as you saw there, he got the 3K. Architect, the hyperflex on this team who has the best Tracer, but when you're seeing them go with the Echo, they're comfortable enough to put Shy in on the Tracer. Hands down, no question, Architect is the better Tracer. This is where things get interesting. He pressures down Choi Sawan a little bit, and he's on the flank here trying to figure out where does he get value out of this. Trying to get his pulse bomb charged because that's going to allow him to become a major threat. Poking until he can get that. Maybe taking a little bit too long on that, but he starts to get into a dive situation here. Gets Eileen extremely low behind the nade, behind Gushue. Throws out the pulse bomb on the 0 health McCree, gets flashbanged. Luckily doesn't die, he recalls with 14 HP, and he comes around and finishes off the McCree, and I think also finishes off the Brig here, but, not the prettiest 2K you'll ever see. He then gets kind of wrecked by Choi Sawan there at the end, and what's a losing effort, but Choi Sawan, maybe ego trying to kill Shy and let him know I'm the better Tracer here. I do think he is. Shy's Tracer leaves a little bit to be desired. So if I go back to my preseason rankings and look at how the different DPS players are ranked, nothing here to feel too embarrassed about in the top 6. Maybe Fitz has not been performing up to where I thought he would. Birdring had a questionable first week there, but has looked pretty nasty since. Lip underperforming a little bit. Edison, that was a mistake. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm really, really sorry. Maybe my worst call of the year so far. Leave has been fantastic. Eggsy, sorry about that one. Glister has been really big bust if you picked him here. Once again, I apologize. But where does Shy fit in? With Kai rotating in and out with a little bit at least, almost playing the full time. But I feel like he's kind of established himself as he's got that full play time. If you're talking hard hit scan capabilities from what I've seen so far, Kai versus Shy, I think I like Kai a little bit better, but Shy probably has a little bit of flexibility that Kai doesn't. Although, like I said, I haven't loved his Sombra and Tracer yet. He's got it, it's playable. But if we're looking at where we rank Shy, if we're slotting him in now, top 15 or so DPS, maybe top 10. That's where I value him rest of season going forward. I do think there's a little bit of a risk that he comes out from time to time. We've seen the Spark play around with Somin Su and with Godsby. And you saw in last week's video, I was not impressed with Godsby, although historically I love the guy. I think the old man strength, 24-year-old passing the torch down to the 18-year-old is probably something that I didn't think would happen this quickly. But it's undeniable what we're seeing from Shy. I don't like him, maybe as much as Achilleos and Avril did in their cast. He's definitely in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. It's a little bit early to say, of course, but you got to add him into that conversation now. League MVP, no way. And I also will not be valuing him in the kind of super elite DPS level here, where you've got week in, week out. These guys should be at the top of the charts, but Shy's not far behind them. So if we're talking, the 10 to 15 range, I think that's where he belongs. That's all I'm going to talk about Shy. I hope that was helpful in getting some kind of evaluation on him and just saying, if you're ever waiting on your waiver wire and you're number one, he's the guy you blow it on. He's going to be a good value from here on out. I am 37. I feel that I haven't talked more about him. I honestly can't even remember if I did a preseason video on him or not, but here he got a pretty famous, I believe it was a 5 or 6K, I don't even remember, where you just see him pulling out all the stops on the McCree. We have this certain impression of him having this been his second time around in Overwatch League, and the first time around wasn't pretty. He earned his way back into the league, no doubt, based on his hard hit scam play. I don't love when I see him on Tracer or Sombra, but when it comes to the McCree and Widow and Ashe, I think he can compete, maybe a little bit below that Shy tier. Maybe he's in the Shy tier. I actually think, if I'm looking at hard hit scan capabilities, I am 37 and Shy are probably a decent comparison as far as where I see their general skill level. I am 37. With Boston, they have looked much, I don't even want to say they've looked much improved. I'd argue they've never looked bad. As, I said in last week's video, I am 37. If he's somehow not picked up, please do me a favor, pick him up. Obviously, we have to see what hero pools hold. If you can wait till hero pools to see and make sure it's something that we think will favor hit scans at least a little bit, we'll have to make a decision based on that. I don't know what to make of hero pools yet. Not necessarily exactly time to think about it yet. I am 37, though. Definitely has some value. As I'm pulling up my next video, I'm not going to talk about Tsuna yet. What the heck? Replay reviewer on Tsuna? What am I doing with my time? What am I doing with my life? So, waiver wire pickups. I have FunnyAstro, Shockwave, and Poko on the list. I have a feeling that over the next several weeks, we'll find out something from the Fusion. We might not. This might be a wasted pickup. These guys may already also be owned by a team in your league. But this is the time to get a step ahead of everyone else. Why wait until we have the formal news? If you have a dead slot on your roster and you really are in need of a support, a tank, or a speculative DPS, which is what Shockwave is, they all have potential for massive fantasy value. They also might not come in because there's still some kind of visa issue. So we're still at a point where we haven't heard the formal news, but this is when, if they're free, you don't have to blow a top waiver wire spot to get them. Basically beat the news. I've also got a quick take note here of Sparkr, who turns June 10th. I checked the calendar, and that is the date of the second tournament. Unless you somehow see London in that matchup, he is of no immediate value to you. But make note, leave yourself a reminder on the calendar that if you want to beat everyone to Sparkr, that's the date to know. I know he is going to be a big jump for the London team. Let's see if they're suffering as much as they just did in the last stage. If we see improvements, we're going to see a larger improvement when they come back in. Thinking Shockwave to the Titans-esque improvements. But that's a big, that's a big name to live up to as far as how good he looked on that team. So let's get to Tsuna, number 7. As you've been seeing in the background here as I've been talking, Tsuna's got a pretty quality tracer. He is a little bit afraid to take Yaki on one, which is probably a smart thing. And you'll see him a couple times here. That first one, he really blinks behind BQB and rips him apart. And it happens a second time here coming up. He does have to force, he blows his recall a little bit and pokes around, but he makes BQB's life miserable. And we'll actually see shortly here, he murders BQB in similar fashion. His tracer mechanics are fantastic. and he forces a switch on BQB. As we're watching this unfold, why am I talking about Tsuna? I don't know, maybe I am wasting my time, but this is a player I had no belief in last year. Now that I'm seeing him, if we do get to hero pools where Tracer is a must pick, Tsuna then becomes one of those cheap waiver wire pickups where he is the team's de facto Tracer. He looks way better than Naga or Oni got on the hero, and in a Tracer meta, he will be a valuable point scorer so long as Paris can keep up what they've been doing, where they're punching above a little bit, where they can hang with those better teams and draw out some longer maps. I know these videos are not always waiver wire pickups, but things to make note of that really caught my attention. And Eileen, I couldn't think of what to say. So for Eileen, I say hit the snooze button. I liked what I saw from Eileen. Eileen has long been an underrated player who has produced fantasy value regularly. And while the Charge are really, really struggling, and Eileen is only just now getting playtime, splitting it with Kaylee, I thought his hit scan looked good enough. And interestingly enough, Tracer, who I think is one of his absolute best heroes, is still being played by Choi So-won. So I do think there's a capability that in the right setup, he gets back to that Tracer. It's been good enough just before the season. It's not like this is only last season. In preseason, we saw some really, really nutty plays from Eileen. So we know he's practiced on the hero. Maybe not within the last 2 weeks, but within the last 2 months, absolutely. His hit scan is not amongst the top tier. He did get outplayed by Shy. When we go back to the way Avril and Achilles were talking earlier, I don't think it's the biggest diff you've ever seen. Eileen did pick him several times. Shy was better, but Eileen hung in there and did what he had to. So I like Eileen. I say hit the snooze button because the Charge are really, really struggling. I can't guarantee he gets playtime over Kaylee, but as Kaylee struggles, I do think Eileen is going to get more playtime, and if the Charge find a way to turn things around, Eileen could give you some serious value. Last but not least, I've got Sweat It just a little bit for Jimmy and Farway. So the absolute crazy Chengdu Hunters did some Chengdu things, and they played in their playoff matchup. They brought in Farway, and they brought in Ameng and Yveltal as well, who all hadn't played yet. So what better time to bring them in the playoffs, right? Chengdu, I don't know what was behind that. I wish I could tell you what's going on. I'm not worried for Monk. Not worried for Elsa or Nisha's playtime. Just sweat it a little bit. I've said time and time again that Farway is a really good player. And, Monk is looking really good, unbenchable. But just keep in mind that if he slumps, Farway is back there. The Chengdu Hunters might do some kind of screwy things and put him in. Jimmy here shows off some of his nutty Widowmaker mechanics. His hit scan play has really, really impressed me. I didn't expect much from him before the season started, as you could, tell based on where I ranked him. But he's earned his way into playing time here. I was always a little bit worried for Jinmu's playtime. Jimmy's earned it. And once again, should we get to the right meta that demands a hit scan player, you can bet that Jimmy's going to be in there alongside Leave. While the meta is as open as it is, though, he will regularly be cycling in and out with one Jinmu. I think that about sums it up for the week. What a fantastic week of Overwatch. I really enjoyed the knockouts and am now really excited for the tournament in Hawaii. Who would have thought that Florida and Dallas would be the two teams going? Probably be making a lot of money if you'd put just a small sum on that betting odds. It was really fun though, and as always, I really enjoy putting these videos together and trying to analyze some of the smaller storylines as we're all enjoying what Florida's doing, what Dallas is doing, and frankly, always enjoying Chengdu as well. As we're watching these storylines, I very much enjoy getting into some of these side stories along the way that have great fantasy value, but not necessarily mainstream broadcast value. So thanks for hanging in there watching on the Replay Reviewer. This Fantasy Underground channel is named because I'm not going after the big storylines. I'm not going for a huge amount of followers, but I'm going after these side stories that impact fantasy and most grab my attention. So I sincerely hope you enjoyed. Hope you have a good week. I hope you didn't drop Shy like I did. Just keep in mind, keep on top of your teams, waiver wires week after week, and in the long run, you will be winning your league, if in week to week, maybe not every time. So good luck out there. Hope you're doing well. Hope internationally that, vaccine wise and stuff, you're able to stay safe. Best of luck to you out there, and we'll catch up soon.